everyone to a very hot and humid afternoon in the African bush. My name is Ellie, and on camera with me today I have got VM, and we are very happy to take you out on a safari bumble. Now, if you've got any questions or any comments, you're more than welcome to send them through using the hashtag Safari Live, or you can use the YouTube chat for that. Now, we are in search of a pangolin because it is World Pangolin Day today after all. The chances of us actually getting one, probably not that good, but you know, here's to being eternally optimistic. In perhaps just as eternally optimistic, we want to try and follow up where Xidulu was this morning. Now, Xidulu is a female leopard that we saw briefly this morning, and she had a kill, and then reports came that she had made another kill. But it subsequently turned out that she was not seen at the spot where the report told us we had to go looking for her, and it wasn't an impala, it was something smaller like a scrub hare. But nonetheless, we are going to try their luck and see if perhaps we can get some spots for this afternoon. Howdy ho. Let's go. Hopefully she'll be there. While we carry on, as we're still a little bit far away, I'm going to send you guys across to Tristan, who I'm sure is also very eager to say hello.
I am eager to say hello. I'm full of the joys of life this afternoon, and therefore always eager to say hello to all of you and hope that you're going to enjoy the next few hours with us here on safari. Now, as Ali mentioned, and on camera today, I've got Senzo once again, which is always wonderful to have Senzo with me. He's an eagle-eyed fella, and so when we are trying to look for all of these elusive cats and animals that we like to try and find, and things like the pangolin, it's good to have Senzo on board. So it promises to be a good afternoon. Now remember, it is live, it is interactive, so hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat if you want to get hold of us. Now I'm down at the bottom here, and well, oh, that's quite nice. Hello, little Birchall starling. Look at the colors on this Birchall starling to my right here. Absolutely beautiful. There's a bit of sun that's just come out through the clouds, and it's got serious iridescence going on. It's been a bit of a sort of drab day with a lot of cloudy conditions, and therefore the birds don't shine nearly as much as they normally do, especially things like a Birchall starling. And so the car, and to be looking as dapper as this one is looking, it really is looking very good, and it's got a nice little waddle too, don't you think? A little head bobbing action as it lopes along the edge of the road looking for all kinds of little insects. Now, we know this is a Birchall starling, for those of you that are a bit kind of unsure about the starlings, because the starlings come in many shades and colors, and some of them do look incredibly similar. But we know this is a Birchall starling from the fact that it's got a very dark eye. So you see that there's a dark kind of almost blackish coloration around the face and eye area, and the eye itself is a dark color. And then also this bird has quite a long tail in comparison to a number of the other starlings. It also takes on a much more purple color than what we see from the other starlings that we get in this area that could be confused with it, which I will show you shortly in my book. So here we go. There we go. Right, so these are the two other starlings that we indicate, or could be something difficult, well, a difficult species to identify for some of you. So you've got the greater blue-eared starling on the right, the glossy starling on the left, and these two look very similar. These are quite tough to tell apart, but immediately before you do anything, is you can notice that they have a very yellow, very pale eye in comparison to that Birchall starling that we just saw, and they also have a lot more of a green-blue feel to them than that blue-purple feel that you have from the Birchall starling. Also note the tails are very short on both of these birds, so both of the birds have nice short tails, and then, like I say, the eye is really what gives them away. Between these two, the easiest way is just to look on the ear over here. So when you see these dark blue ear coverts on the side here, that's how you can tell the greater blue-eared from the Cape glossy. Nice to have all three species, though. They really are beautiful birds. Besides that, in the background of my book, you will also notice that we have our wildebeest herd that is unscathed after Tumba's marauding assault on them this morning. Obviously, Tumba was trying to hunt them, but he got nowhere near them in the end, and they all managed to survive. So they're all quite jubilant and full of the joys of life, like I am this afternoon. Grazing, and I'm sure they are happy to see a bit of sunshine and rain, actually, because, well, the rain equals really good grazing for a wildebeest, and that's what makes them happy. Now, in terms of what my plans are for this afternoon, because I haven't even gotten there yet, I got sidetracked by a bird, is that I've come down to Gari Dam because there apparently is a southern ground hornbill on the dam cam, and Rebecca says to me it looks skinny. So I'm going to go and see what a skinny bird looks like, because I'm not quite sure what that is. So I'm going to go and try and see what's happening with the southern ground hornbill. Once I've had a look at that, then I'm going to go and try and follow up on Tumba and see where he is. Maybe he's around somewhere in this area as well. And maybe we... Ooh... Before I get into anything else, because Paul has asked a very pertinent question. Senzo, do you have your fun socks on today? What socks have you got on? Ooh... Socks. Senzo is rocking no socks, but he does have very fancy shoes on today. Senzo, show everybody your fancy shoes. Come on. Come on. You can't not show everybody your fancy shoes. So Senzo's got his fancy shoes that have got a little bit of fatigue and fade in them. Ooh, Lacoste as well. Very nice, Senzo. Looking very dapper this afternoon as per normal. Exactly, Rebecca. That's what I said as well. Shoes for the summertime. You got it, Rebecca. Right, let's go and try and find this bird and see what we can find. Senzo just shakes his head at me because I always make him go onto camera and make him do all kinds of funny things. So we're going to try and see if we can find some things to look at that are not Senzo's outfit. And while we do that, let's send you back to Ellie, who I believe has had some success in finding the tree where Xidulu stashed a certain item.
Well, we have had some success, at least a little bit more than what we did this morning, and VM actually managed to spot the tiny little scrub hare that Xidulu killed this morning and put up a tree. So there it is. Now, well, it's quite a romantic view. At least we're not looking at anything that's too gruesome. And it's unfortunately, you know, it was the last day for this little scrub hare. Now, I do think there's still a little bit of meat left in there, at least from what we can see. It doesn't seem like she's fully eaten it, but we are not sure where she is because as we can see, she's not here. Now, we are going to try and dash around here, see if perhaps she's gone somewhere. There are lots of little pans that have been formed because of the rain, so perhaps she went down for a drink. I'm not too sure, but we are going to go and investigate, see if we can find our good spots for the afternoon. Also, other pretty trees for her to lean on. So, let's go and have a look. Snivy, you are asking a very relevant question for World Pangolin Day. You would like to know if they are endangered or if they're just very elusive. Well, they are actually very, very endangered and very elusive. So the combination is a deadly one for anyone that's trying to find them. But even though they are as elusive as they are, the problem is that for people that know where to find some of them, the pangolin self-defense mechanism is just to roll into a ball. So they look like a giant artichoke almost. And you can imagine for humans, it's very easy once a pangolin feels frightened and it curls into a ball just to pick it up and then take it. Unfortunately, it is the most trafficked mammal in the world. I still cannot wrap my head around those numbers just because it makes no sense. You struggle so much to see one. We are looking for them and we cannot find them. So they get taken pretty much from all of Africa because there are different species of pangolin in Africa and in Asia, and most of them, the scales are utilized in the traditional Chinese medicine or they're either eaten as a delicacy. So it is a little bit unfortunate. They are very, very rare, but they are wonderful. They are one of those creatures that once you see, they look like almost like a little T-Rex walking, you know, with their long claws, and they feed mostly on termites, so they're quite interesting creatures to see. So who knows, maybe today we'll get lucky and today will be the day that we'll get one of them. They are normally walking around at now, so it's a very, very, very late. Now, we're not too sure where to head off to, but we're going to carry on looking for this also very elusive cat. But while we do that, we're going to send you guys across to the Mara, so have a look at the Mara and just say hello to James Henry. Oh, hello. We're back and I'm just struggling to get into gear. Alright. I feel like Giga is beating me right now. There we go. Alright, so off we go. We're gonna come and try look for this leopard. Now, this brings me to a deja vu of this morning. So it is ironic that today on one pangolin day, I have the luck of trying to look for very elusive spots. And funny enough, I can see my tracks for where we were looking this morning, and we just didn't see her there. So I wonder if perhaps she didn't leave in the morning and then she just completely left onto a different area, because we definitely drove up and down here. So crazy to think that we just didn't look at the right spot at the right time. There she is. Hello, you've been hiding all this time. I'm sure you were looking at me the whole morning. Hello, yay! Now, you've chosen a very good spot. It is not that sunny, however, it is very hot and very humid. So she's actually resting underneath the bushes. And I can't believe she's actually here. We drove past this exact spot this morning. I wouldn't be surprised if she was actually looking at me. Hello, beautiful girl. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you finally, now that you're not up in a tree. Now, I apologize for the non-great view. However, there are... So I can't really go around. It seems like it's a bit of a distance for I get a bit of a view. And like you can see, we have the poles on because we still have our roofs on, because we do think that we're going to get rained on this afternoon as well. Apparently, there's rain predicted for the rest of the week. We shall see. Right. Wildine, do you think if maybe we angle it a little bit better? No? Well, at least we can see your eyes, so that's actually perfect. I think that's as good as it's going to be. And I've just seen you all in between the branches. Hello. Beautiful eyes. Now, this particular female is known as Xidulu for those of you that are just joining, and her name actually means termite mound. So normally the names are given to the animals just in relation to either a physical characteristic or a place where they've been spotted. Seems like James has managed to fight off the gremlins, so let's go over to him, and hopefully this time it'll be for real. I am hoping he's going to stick around.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this end of the Sunset Safari. The Maasai Mara is where we find ourselves. Let me stop and greet you properly. Hello, my name is James Henry, and Archie is on camera. Very good. Now, this is a somewhat sad drive for, well, a few reasons. The main reason, of course, is that this is going to be our last drive from the Maasai Mara for a little while. We're going to be, well, not broadcasting from here anymore for a little while. We're going to be in research and development. I'm going to be here doing some training, and we're going to be fixing some things up and improving bits and pieces of the operation. And sometime later this year, we will go live again. So fear not, you will hear from us from the Mara again. But for the next little while, this will be the last in the Maasai Mara. Let us enjoy it together. I'm heading down towards an area here where there seem to be a lot of cars, which normally indicates some sort of predator, which is quite fun. And you may send your questions to #SafariLive if you like. Otherwise, you can use the chat stream on YouTube. And Rebecca, who's directing, says, why don't you begin by telling us what you like most about the Maasai Mara? I think that's a pretty good idea. So I will be here for the next 5 weeks or so, doing bits and pieces. And then Jamie will be doing bits and pieces here. And we will go back on there sometime later this year. We're not sure when just yet. Now, where is this great bevy of cars? It's not very easy to find, so while we do that, let us go across to Tristan Dix, who is about to greet you in the name of Giraffe Camelo Leopardalis.
Well, we are going to greet you with the giraffe, although I've already greeted you and said hello, but it's nice to have a giraffe, no grass, because grass is on the ground and the giraffe is the one standing up and is the animal. But the giraffe is standing against a beautiful backdrop. You can see those puffy white clouds. There's a little bit of sun, hopefully will break through, and then it will kind of just highlight that giraffe a little bit more. But it is a nice big old male. You can see he's got well-developed ossicones on top of his head, and also lots and lots of calcification on the front of his head as well. So those are big bony deposits that have been deposited where there is no muscle, and so that gets this sort of big lumped forehead, and older giraffes have that lumped forehead. Now what you'll also notice is a little bird that is pecking away at the neck of that giraffe, and no, it is not trying to stab it in the neck and decapitate it. It is there to try and get some food in the form of parasites. It was also actually having a little of a grooming session. It looks like a little bonding that's going on in the back of the giraffe's neck. I wonder if the giraffe approves of these little love games behind its ears. Interesting. Anyway, now down its neck you'll notice there is a big bald patch over there. So that is quite common to see on older giraffe. You do see often signs that they've got different types of skin diseases. So this particular one looks like maybe something like mange that's caused that irritation to develop, and they've scratched it to the point where it's been rubbed raw and it's got that. It could also be, of course, a wound. Difficult to say. You know, it kind of looks mangy though to me. That's the normal kind of thing you see from mange. The other thing that they get is a virus where you get big lumps that grows all over their neck and their faces. Not very pretty at all, but this is not one of those. It's not a virus that is causing that. Like I say, is more than likely sarcoptic mange that it's got. Now you can see it's busy ruminating. So even though giraffe are tall creatures and you'd think that it would be a silly thing for a giraffe to have to ruminate, they are ruminators, so they will basically cough up, if you want to call it that, big balls of leaves into their mouth, where they will chew them and break them down even further. From there it then gets obviously swallowed back into the stomach, where it will float around in the digestive juices, and those tiny little bits that have been mushed and squished and cut will float off the bolus, and they will then start to be absorbed, whereas the bolus itself will then be ejected back up to the mouth where it will be eaten. So there it goes down all the way and should come up shortly. There it came. So Mrs. Lapwing, you're wondering if the oxpeckers would make an injury worse. So in the case of this particular injury, yes, if it was in a situation where there was still a bit of scabbing on it, it looks as though the scabbing is all, but it's not actually too sort of open and raw. But what oxpeckers do is they will go to wounds like that and they will actually peck at it. And the reason they do that is because oxpeckers actually drink blood. So they are a bit like a vampire in some ways, and they are known as seguinivores, which means that they drink blood and feed off blood. And so sometimes when they are on a giraffe, they will kind of peck at it and try and make a situation where they cause that wound to bleed, so that they can actually get to the blood itself, and they can actually irritate wounds quite extensively and keep them open for much longer than they normally would be. So Dale, you're asking, is mange the same as what humans get in terms of scabies? So Dale, scabies, yes, in dogs it's called scabies sometimes, because what happens with mange is it's a little mite that occurs on your skin, and then you basically scratch on it, causes you to get very itchy, and then because you scratch so much, you cause a scab to develop. So that's where the scabies name comes from. But yes, mites occur on most animals. They are a natural thing. And what happens is when an animal goes into a weakened state, or particularly in very dry periods, you'll find the mange mites populate very quickly, and as the animal gets weak and is struggling to find food and water, so it becomes more and more susceptible to the mange, and the mange then spreads and it affects the animal more and more. And basically, if it's really bad, they're struggling to find water, particularly in drought times, and the mites themselves absorb a lot of liquid from that host animal, and so the animals a lot of the time dehydrate more than anything else from mange. So it's a really horrible thing, and it's a horrible way to go. You can imagine it's basically being drank alive, if that makes sense, which is really not very pleasant at all. And so it is very similar to what we have. We do get mange in our hair, which sounds really odd, but it's probably not the exact same species of mange, because there are, I think, 3 or 4 different types of mange on wild animals alone. And so probably find the mange is slightly different, and that we don't actually have the same thing. Now, our giraffe is turned and is actually facing us even better than what it was just now. It's giving us the stare down. Now, of course, it's going to change its head the opposite direction. It was busy giving us a proper stare down, which is always quite nice. So it's interesting that we haven't actually seen as many giraffes as I would have thought we would have seen over the summer period. I wonder if it's because it's been so dry and really the vegetation hasn't dictated huge amounts of giraffes to be here. It's kind of odd. I remember being at Djuma this time last year, and we had a lot more giraffe around. We used to see big bulls regularly coming down towards the dam and drinking there, and you'd find the odd herd here and there. But this year it's been really very difficult. Now, why is he all of a sudden... I wonder, is little Tumba maybe lurking here? Because this is not very far from where we saw Tumba. So, Gianna, who's 11 years old, you want to know how tall giraffe are on average. So, a male giraffe is about 5.5 meters tall, whereas a female giraffe about 4.5 meters tall on average. But he's definitely seen something. I want to quickly just go and investigate where he's looking, because Tumba wasn't too far from this area, and so you never know. Maybe Tumba is in a situation where he's kind of just sitting somewhere close by. I did also have quite a few birds alarm calling just now when we came this direction. Right, now while I see if little Tumba is sitting here resting and relaxing and watching this big giraffe, I'm going to send you back to Ellie, who's got a leopard that is sitting under a bush, and it doesn't have to go through what I'm going to go through to try and find him.
Well, we are very, very relaxed, enjoying the company of this female leopard, and you can tell that she is even more relaxed than us because she is having a fat Saturday afternoons yet. No, I think she's probably also been very hot the rest of the day, and that particular spot where she's in, although it's a little bit tricky for us to see her, it's actually perfect for her, because not only is it under the cover of the trees, and she's right at the bottom of this tree, but also the beautiful part about it is that she's actually on the soil itself. She's not sitting on the grass, and I'm sure after getting everything getting properly soaked yesterday, that particular spot is actually very cool. So I'm sure she's there because she's getting the nice breeze. She's got the protection from the sun, but also the soil cooling her from the bottom. As you can see, every time that she raises her head, she is panting a little bit. So it's a good indication that she's actually a little bit hot. And you can see how quickly she's breathing. You see the white part of the stomach there going up and down very quickly. So pretty much to overdrive. And although it's not as bad as she portrays it to be, I cannot really tell how it would feel to have a very thick coat that's going to help me survive during the winter time as well. During the summer times. Pretty tale? You certainly know how to hide. I haven't seen you out in the open ever, and I've just seen her today in between the trees and the bushes. So she's actually doing a very good job. We're going to stick around with her, because there is not much of the kill that's actually been eaten. So we are hoping that eventually, a little while later, she's actually going to go up the tree again and perhaps start feeding off it again, because if she does, the branch where she would go onto is perfect. We've just received a interesting story or anecdote from Xidulu that links her to pangolins. So James fed us a story that apparently the first sighting that, or one of the first sightings that anyone ever had with this particular leopard was of her and her mother, and while she was playing with the pangolin. So quite an unusual sight. They should have just called her Pangolin then instead of Xidulu. Well, I think that makes it a full circle, a very interesting turn of events of how things have worked out for us on Pangolin Day. So thank you very much for sharing that story. I actually didn't know that, and it's quite interesting to then be able to link both things. Who knows, maybe today, not putting any pressure on you when you wake up, but if you want to lead us to a pangolin, we would be quite grateful, because I would really, really like to see one again. I haven't seen one in the Sabi sand in the longest time, ironically. Whew. So I cannot say are struggling in here. Actually, she's chosen a very good spot, and I feel quite silly because we drove this exact part of the road. So I wonder if she was actually seeing me. I want to try and believe that she actually went for water at one of the pans that's a little bit further east from where we are. But we're going to stick around here and definitely keep an eye on her, because the chances of her actually going up the tree a little later are very good. But also, according to the reports we received, the lions are not too far away. So it would be quite interesting. Tommy, you're wondering why she would store such a small kill up the tree. Well, it's idiosyncrasy or the personality of every individual leopard. Some of them love putting things on the trees and some of them don't. But the reason why they do it, even if it's such a small kill, is perhaps, and in this particular case, we know she was eating a steenbok this morning, which is a small species of antelope. So I'm sure she's probably not as full as she could be had she eaten an impala, but she still has enough food. So like was just put it up there so that she could return to it and eat it without having to worry about any scavengers, like, you know, any of the smaller cats, perhaps a jackal, perhaps lions, perhaps other leopards, from actual hyenas, of course, from actually coming and trying to steal it from her. I think in this particular area, hyenas are the biggest concern when it comes to leopards in terms of scavenging from one another. So in this particular area, leopards are well known, or at least some of them, very well known for trying to put their kills up trees just to prevent anything from getting to them. Now, in the spot where she is, I'm actually a little bit surprised also, because it would be a good place even for a bird of prey to try and scavenge from that kill, because she's not there. So who knows? I think maybe the fact that the scrub hair is of that particular color, and again, we apologize for all the poles and everything else, that this, even if the scrub hair, because the scrub hair is I can't speak, of that particular color, it also helps camouflage it a lot better. It's actually thanks to VM vantage point and his very keen eye that we managed to see it, because it almost looked like an extra bump on the tree. Hello, pretty girl, raising her head. We will have another car joining us, so we might have to move a little bit around, because I'm not too sure if other people will be able to see it. But I think while we do that and try to figure a way out, we're going to go across to James and enjoy the view while he scans the land of the Mara.
I am enjoying the view, everybody, but we are in a slightly dodgy area here now, trying desperately to not get stuck. And as I said, I am very, very good at getting stuck. So we're going to try not to, and the reason that we're going this way, taking these appalling risks on your behalf, is because there is a rhinoceros not too far from here. I think we're okay. How on earth those people managed to drive around this area when it was so wet, I cannot tell you. Now, Crystal, you said your best part of the Mara is the fact that it is so vast. That is certainly one of my best parts of the Mara. And the fact that you can see so much, see so far, is very splendid indeed. I quite like the fact that there are black rhino around as well. We're not far from this creature. There it is, I see it. Archie, I know that the sun is in the wrong place, but you're going to have to bear with me. Can you see it? There it is. Everyone sits still. Archie's on the end of his lens. A magnificent black rhinoceros. How very splendid. Standing there wondering what on earth all of the fuss is about. There are lots of cars watching him. Lots of delighted people. He's got some oxpeckers on him. Ooh, and coming straight towards us is the Eurasian Marsh Harrier. Should just go through the middle of your screen. That was perfectly timed. Well done, you clever bird. Twice as clever cameraman. Very good. Let us go back to the rhinoceros. Seems to be slowly walking this way. This is the kind of area that poor old Jamie Taylor and, well, obviously not Brent, but Ralph and Steve were getting stuck in a little while back. It gets very inundated and marshy. What a creature. Now, of course, apart from the vastness of the Mara, the other thing that is really good fun is the openness of the Mara. And, you know, in Kruger, for example, if you were standing this close to a black rhinoceros, you'd have about, you'd have an enormous windy and impenetrable forest in front of you that you'd have to get through to get to him, and you'd have no idea that he was there. But there he is. Now, one of the most interesting things about them here in the Mara is, of course, that they are still browsers. They're not grazers, and yet they live in this open area. Browse on is little bits of, or small bushes. And I think it's largely the caper bushes, I think they eat those, that are in amongst the grass. Just small sort of, I guess, you might call them saplings. Now he can smell something. He is irritated by something. I'm saying he, I'm assuming it's a bull, it might not be. See the notches in the ear? Those notches are most probably cut by human beings who have marked him so that they know who he is. And I wonder if it's not that he can smell us. I think it is that he can smell us. Clifford, do you want to know how long the black rhino has been an endangered species? I don't know, Clifford. I can look it up for you. I think I might actually have something that will tell us. Let me look quickly. But I do know that it's as long as I've known about rhino. I remember doing a school project of it in what you would call the 7th grade, what we used to call Standard 5. And I remember it was, I'm laughing because it was horrific. I'm dreadful at art and have no idea really. And the black rhino was then endangered, as far as I remember. I'm just trying to see here if we do perhaps have some kind of answer to that question. No, I don't think we do. I would say at least 20 years, 20 to 30 years. Yeah, I'm sorry I can't be more accurate than that. Remember, different subspecies of black rhino are in various different of threat, and one of them is in fact extinct. That's the western black rhino, which was declared extinct. I am checking this on an app. Thank you very much, Archie, for showing everybody that I was checking on my app. He has an amazing poker face, does our Archie. So yeah, I think for at least 30 years, one of them has in fact gone extinct, and I think there are 7 others still that are around. This one is not in particularly good shape. Right, I don't think any of them are in particularly good shape. Let's just go around the corner here and see if we can't get another view of him, and also maybe get a nice view of the Eurasian marsh harrier. Now, green quality, you're wondering if rhinos only live on their own. No, when, much like white rhinos, when they are with youngsters, you'll see females and babies together. I'm not sure that you will ever see the great crashes of rhinos that you do with the white rhino in places like the Sabi Sands. I mean, I've seen up to 11 together at the same time. Oh dear, rough patch, going to keep going, not going to stop. Please don't get stuck, please don't get stuck. Oh dear. Very nervous now, very scared, very afraid, very deep mud now. Most afraid. Oh dear. Losing traction. We seem to be okay. Okay. Well done, everybody. You're okay. We made it. For now. Right, let me just turn into a position that Archie can show you our black rhinoceros. So I don't think you find great crashes of them. I don't know if you used to. I mean, there are only supposed to be 16 or so of them in the entire Maasai Mara, so you know you're not going to see great herds of them. But you may see more than one from time to time. Most likely a cow and her calf. I don't know if the young bulls hang around together like they do with white rhino. You find they probably do to a certain extent. He's listening to the cars moving and turning his head sort of towards the wind. He knows there's something afoot in this direction, but he's not really sure what it is, because of course his eyes aren't so good. I remember the slogan for my 7th grade biology project was, "Don't kill rhino. Only short-sighted people kill short-sighted animals." Oh, what a cringe. I was so desperate desperately original, wasn't I? And the pictures I drew of the rhino, I mean, they really were distressingly poor. He's a fantastic fellow, this. Now, I don't think he's a very big black rhino. I think that he is probably about 1 ton or so, 1,000 kilograms, 2,200 pounds, plus minus, and jumbo. And that is not a huge amount bigger than a really big buffalo bull, which is difficult to believe. Now, we have a question from Kermie, which is very nice. Hello, Kermie. I didn't know you were watching us. I hope your banjo is in hand. Kermie, you're wondering how tall a black rhinoceros is? Well, I can tell you that exactly. I will tell you exactly how tall a black rhinoceros is at the shoulder, if I can find the correct app. I'm going to say around 5'2" or so at the shoulder, but I will confirm that for you now. Black rhinoceros, text, description, it's the one we want. Don't want to know about its eyelashes, want to know how tall it is. Else, I'm sure it'll give it to me. They always give these things. Surely it must be, yeah. Horn size, no, not interested in that. Males, horn. No, oh yes, there we go. Adult black rhinoceros stands about 1.6 meters at the shoulder. That is almost exactly as I said. So 1.6 meters at the shoulder is roughly 5 feet and 3 inches. And I'd say that's a pretty good size, that chap. So even I would be able to see over his shoulder. Hello, Lily. You want to know how their horns stay sharp? Lily, that's actually a really good question. And in areas where rhinos and telephone poles occur, it becomes very obvious how they stay sharp, because the telephone poles all develop scrape marks at the bottom of them because they're straight and easy to sharpen your horn on. Basically, they use trees. They'll sharpen their trees on horns, sharpen their horns on trees, and they'll also use, I suppose, they horn the ground, but I'm not sure how effective that is at sharpening their horns. But it'll be on trees largely that they keep them that sharp. And I mean, that thing looks like it's got a rapier stuck under its nose. Okay, we're going to try for one more angle, and then we're going to get out of this bog. Hello, Gianna. You are 11 years old and you want to know if there are any other rhinos other than black or white ones. You would quite like to see a pink one. Well, Gianna, there are only black and white rhino, but you know, I'll tell you a secret. Well, it's not a secret. It's just quite an interesting fact, really. Black and white rhinos are actually not black or white. They are both the same color. They are both that gray color. And I'll tell you why they're called black and white, and I'll tell you also that I suppose, although I've never seen it myself, it might actually be possible for you to see a pink rhinoceros. Yes, a pink rhinoceros. Right, let's have a look. We'll just go around this corner and then we'll have another look at him, and I'll explain all of that to you now. Here's this little corner. There we are. I don't think he's going to come out of this sort of bog in there, so I don't think we're going to spend too much longer here. But Gianna, they're called black and white because of a mistranslation. So when the settlers, the Dutch people, arrived in Cape Town in South Africa, it wasn't Cape Town at the time, it was just a sort of bay with very cold water and very little rainwater, much as it is now. And and they saw both kinds of rhino down near the Cape. They called one the Wyd rhinoster, which meant the wide-mouthed rhino, and then they called the other one, I don't know what they called the other one actually, But when the English settlers then arrived, they didn't bother, in time-honoured tradition, to find out what veit actually meant. And so they assumed it meant white, and they called the other one black. So they're actually exactly the same colour, and the veit referred to the fact that this one, this black rhino's got a hooked lip, or very narrow mouth, and the white rhino, or veit rhinoster, has got a very wide mouth. Now, in terms of pink rhinos, I suppose if you found an albino rhino, its skin would be pink. And so it would be possible, but it would be very unpleasant to be a pink rhinoceros, I'm afraid, because out in this hot sun, it would burn almost immediately. And so, although it's possible, we'd really not like to see it. This chap seems to be deeply confused about what to do with his existence. I wonder if he knows what a celebrity he is. Alrighty, we're going to turn around and head down, I think, towards the Hammerkop's nest and beyond. While we do that, let us go across to Tristan, who I believe is driving about the place happily on his Saturday afternoon.
Indeed I am, James, and well, that rhino is much like you, just doesn't know what a celebrity he really is. Well, Mr. James Henry, host and commander of all that we do here in Safari Live presenting, so he's just like James in a lot of ways. James, you can relate to that rhino, except maybe your build is not quite the same, I don't think. James is far more lean and fit than maybe that rhino is. Now, I'm going to go past Janet Jackson's house. No Janet Jackson today. Janet Jackson is not home, so we'll carry on past that. So, just an update regarding Tumba and what's been going on. I went and looked in the last place I had him. There's no sign of him there. There are lots and lots of other animals, steenbok, duiker, dwarf mongoose, and they all seem fairly relaxed, so they don't seem as though there's a leopard that's there. And if anything like this morning is to go by, and given that we've had kind of overcast, rainy weather most of the day, I would imagine that he's been up and down the whole day, just going from place to place, hunting and looking for food. And so what I'm doing is I'm just doing a big loop around just to double check he hasn't crossed out of our area, and then once I've kind of established that, then I'm going to go back up there and I'll try and worm my way through and go towards where the impala herd was that he was watching when I left him, and see if maybe he made a kill somewhere in that area. If not, it's going to maybe take a bit of kind of luck in order to find him. The roads are so hard at the moment, and it is really difficult to see any tracks, and so we'll try and see. Maybe we get lucky, like I say, and we can find him a little bit later. Now, I've been thinking about this pink rhino story that we've had, and James is talking about how it's possible if it was an albino rhino, and well, I think the only way we can bring this to life, because I would love to see what this pink rhino is, and since we have the most talented artist in the whole of the sort of world in the form of James Henry, I think James should draw us a pink rhino. And while we contemplate that, let's send you off to Ellie, who's got an elephant approaching the leopard.
We do have an elephant approaching the leopard. However, it seems like the elephant has now decided to be a little bit shy, and it's very hard to see him because unfortunately we are amongst quite thick foliage. But I'm going to shut up a little bit, and I think you'll be able to hear it crunching the leaves and moving around. Not making too much of a noise now, are you? No, we're not too far away. I know this is not ideal, and we'll probably only get another view of it as it carries on moving. There we go. It's a little bit of a complicated one, but definitely there is an elephant moving around there. So we're about maybe, I'm not sure, 5 meters, 10 meters at most away from them. And Xidulu is still fast asleep, as you can as you can see there. She hasn't actually even moved, which is quite surprising. And the elephant, I don't think the elephant has even realized that the leopard is here. It's still pretty much in that general direction and hasn't approached us, and I can't really see it anymore. And also, I don't want to move at this particular time because I don't want to either startle her or the elephant, because they are quite close to one another. Here we go. I think I saw some of the movement a little bit more to your right, perhaps. tricky one. Tricky one. Right, so in worst case scenario, or what could happen in terms of action, is if this elephant realized and was annoyed by the presence of the leopard, likely he would come around and shake his ears and flap his ears and probably just trumpet and chase the leopard away. And I think very quickly she would retreat to safety. She might just go and hide behind some bushes, or perhaps even go back to where her kill is. I do think that this elephant is, however, also partially asleep, as he hasn't really moved from where it was. We did hear a little bit earlier, and it sounded like perhaps it was drinking from one of the natural pans. So I think if she does go to quench her thirst at any point, she might bump into it because it's in direct path. And you can see we've got this particular bushes in front of us that do not allow us to see anything else. But I think just for everyone's safety, we're going to stay put here and just let the animals play it out. Or at least for the next little while, and then we'll reconsider if it's actually worth it and safe to reposition and move a little bit more. I feel like I'm almost going to fall out of the car. We are going to keep you guys posted as to what's going to be happening around here, and if action does unfold, then we'll for surely come back and let you guys share the action with us. But in the meantime, let's go to James, who's found another rhino.
Now, here we are with another black rhino, and, well, I thought to myself, wow, there we are very lucky here. And Archie, basically, who doesn't like to say too much while we're driving, or at all, really, said to me, basically, that I was talking nonsense, and he has seen 6 black rhino together, and so the fact that I said that they don't spend as much time with each other as their white cousins is utter rubbish. So I apologise for that profusely, and Archie said that it seemed to be a sort of mixture of cows and calves and bulls, and so I suspect, exactly like the white rhino, you'll find that cows that have got non-independent youngsters will come together from time to time. And sometimes, in fact, youngsters that have left their mothers will join with mature cows just to be around them and sort of take their guidance, if you like. Mariko, you're wondering if there are any other rhino species in the Mara. There aren't any. Are there any others in Africa? Yes, there is another species called the white rhinoceros, of which we've been speaking, and they are found largely in southern Africa. I think there is one northern white rhino left, and that one northern white rhino is left in the Sudan, and they're not really sure actually if it's still alive. And so the northern white rhino, which is a different subspecies of the white rhino, could easily be extinct. I mean, it's functionally extinct. But the white rhino down in southern Africa, he's doing okay. The last sort of 8 or 10 years have been pretty bad from a poaching point of view for the white rhino, but they seem to be getting it under control in southern Africa. And in fact, the white rhino was, I think it was more threatened than the black rhino in the 60s when Ian Player, the maverick and brilliant conservationist, got into conserving them down in Natal, sort of in Chitwa and Umfolozi, down in Natal. Oh, Safari Dream, you're wondering what the difference between extinct and endangered is. Well, that animal over there is endangered because there are so few of them left. There are probably only about 2,500. Between 2,500 and 5,000 black rhinos left in the world. Extinct means none left at all. And so that's the difference there. And you go from endangered to critically endangered to extinct in the wild and then to completely extinct. Let's have one last look at him and then we'll head on. The pangolin, of course, is an endangered species as well, and it is World Pangolin Day. And much like, in fact, very similar to the rhino, their scales are used in various kinds of medicine, and their scales are made of the same thing that a rhino horn's horn is made of, that a rhino's horn is made of, and that's keratin, which is the stuff your hair and your nails are made of. It has no known medicinal property whatsoever, but that is to say that, I mean, the human being is not a very clever thing, is it? And one of the reasons that Africa has been subjected to to the great ravages of poaching and the great demand for things like pangolin scales and rhino horn is that Asian species of these animals have been hunted into almost extinction. The Javan, Sumatran rhinos and Indian rhinos are even more endangered, as far as I'm aware, than the black rhino. Certainly the Javan and Sumatran versions. Okay, we're going to move on from here. Tristan is now sitting with a great herd of pachyderms of a different kind.
Well, yes, we were. But they don't want to play nice and they are gone away. Oh, actually, hang on. They're right here. Let's see if we can get a view of them, Sens. If we stop here, we might be able to get a view. One last little view as they go past from a little mud wallow. It's the last kind of view we'll get of them, I think. It's just a female and a young one, which I think is the tail end of the herd. I reckon the rest have already passed over the road. I don't see anything coming from the other side where these guys came from. And so I think the rest have probably already crossed and are maybe a little bit further away. And that's why we're just seeing a female and a young one. Very seldom will you just see two elephants like this and just a female by herself. They generally are in small groups together and they try and surround themselves as much as possible. Since let's just go forward, we should get another gap here in front because where we are now is not really that ideal. There we go. Superbikes, you're wondering if rhinos have thicker skin than elephants. So there's another elephant on our right hand side, which is where the others came from, so that's good news. So yes, they do. It depends also where we're talking about, because the skin on the back of an elephant's ear is paper thin, same as the skin on a rhino's ear. They've also got very, very thin skin there. But in terms of the actual hide on both animals and sort of the flanks of them, I would say it's probably very close, but I would imagine that the elephant's is slightly thicker than what the rhino's is. In fact, you find that probably the hippo is the one with the thickest in terms of actual sort of body to thickness ratio. I would imagine that the hippo would be the thickest of them. It would actually be quite interesting is if you took body to weight to sort of skin thickness ratio and saw which one actually had the thicker skin, because obviously an animal, as it gets bigger, so things get bigger as well. But I would be interested to know whether or not there is a correlation and whether rhinos percentage wise is thicker than what elephants is. It's an interesting thought. Never really given that much thought before today. Now they are going to have a mud wallow. Whether or not they're going to let me get to them is the next question. I'm going to try though. It looks like it's very thick here and not very easy to negotiate, but I have followed a few leopards through here before, so surprise, surprise. So maybe, just maybe, I can actually get into a position where we can see them. Hold on, Sens. I think if we go around here, there's a little gap. I remember following Tingana and Kuchava and Tingana and Tundi mating in this area, so I think there's a little gap. If I go to the left here, I should be able to loop back around to that mud wallow, if I remember correctly. It's also a lot thicker than when they were mating. That was in the height of winter and when it was very dry, so it looks a little different now, but yes, there should be a gap right here. Problem is I don't want to chase the Ellies from their mud wallow. So let's see, there we go. So we've got at least a view of the little one, who seems to have an abscess on its nose. Have you got an abscess on your trunk? You do, don't you? Yes, there you go. See in the middle of the trunk, very close to where the tusks are, there's a big lump there. What has happened to you there? Now it's quite common to actually see this on elephants, as they sometimes pieces of wood stuck in there or some sort of thorn, and it causes an abscess to grow, and it will eventually sort itself out. That hopefully will burst at some point, and that'll be the end of it, and we'll have a situation where it'll be a lot more comfortable. I'm going to try roll forward a bit further so we can just actually see them, because at the moment all we can see is a big fat bush. So let's try and get through here. Ooh. You right there, Senzo? You still with me? Excellent, buddy. So there we go, that's actually quite nice. Now we can actually see the mud being thrown all over the place, and we're not in the firing line by being in front. Had we gone the other way, we would have been in serious problems. I think we'd have been covered in mud by now, which would have been less delightful. she looks like she's having a royal time, doesn't she? She's got a nice thick black mud that is going to be thrown all over the place, and the Ellies will be absolutely loving the fact that we've had a bit of rain. They're going to be thoroughly thrilled that rain has come. And actually, if you look at her, you see she's used her tusk at some point as well to dig that mud up. Look at how black her tusk is. It doesn't look white at all at the moment. It's just got this dark mud covered tusk on the left side. So I think the mud and lifted it up. They do sometimes do that when they are trying to get right in there and try and churn everything up so that they can get enough to actually throw over themselves, which is very clever. And is the little one going to go head first? I think the little one looks like it's going to lie down. Are you going to lie down? It looks like you want to. I think mom's in the way for now. As soon as mom gets out the way, I think we can have a situation where that little one is going to lie down. Francis, you say this is like a spa day? Exactly like a spa day. This is why the Ellies are here, is to make them skin feel better and to look after themselves and to spoil themselves. So they're doing it not only to cool down, but also, look. You see how she's going to use the tusks? You see what I was saying? So she digs her tusks in and then she lifts up, and that causes the mud to break a little bit, and she can then get more water from where just underneath that muddy area. Very cool to see. And I hope that she doesn't make too much of a mess there from now, because when they leave, I want to go there and I'll hopefully be able to show you the track of her head actually going into the mud with the 2 holes and her forehead impression on the bank, which would have been very cool. But back to the spa day thing, the reason why they're doing this is obviously cool down is the most important part of it, but the second reason that they're doing it is also just to control parasites and to keep their skin in good condition. This acts as almost like a body scrub, and so once they've mud wallowed like this, they'll often go up to a tree and just rub up against it, and it gets rid of any dead skin cells, any little parasites that are going to get encrusted in that mud will be pulled off, and so it just keeps the elephant really in good condition. Now don't make a mess there. I want to see your nice tracks. I think I've got no chance at this stage. I think she's going to just break everything. Yes, well done. We're just watching you, don't worry. I don't think she's very happy with me wanting to see her tracks. But now little one's going to come in and get going as well. I don't think there's much mud left for you, little one. I think mom has used it all. She also doesn't quite have the technique down in comparison to the way mom does. Most of the mud that's on that little one was from the mother throwing it all over it, and it's basically just throwing clumps of mud at its own forehead at this stage. It's not very elegant at all, is it? Cute though. May lack elegance, but certainly makes up for it in overload of cuteness at the moment. Very cool to see. And here comes the older sibling, which is par for the course. Older siblings will do this every time. So Bex, you reckon it's like they've lined up to have a bit of a wallow? Exactly. It's like it's when you go to a theme park or a sort of water park and you all have to line up for the slide. It's exactly the same thing. So everybody's kind of lines up and then each one gets their turn. Although I have a funny, oh goodness, here we go. He's going to lie down. I don't think you've chosen the best mud wallow, Ellies. This is far too small for you. That's not stopping this elephant at all. How cool is this? And this is why I love watching Ellies. So as much as I love leopards and I will spend every day with leopards and every moment I can, but elephants are incredibly fun to be around, and especially when they do stuff like this. It is amazing to kind of watch them, and they seem to have such fun when it's been raining, and there's joy in their kind of expressions when they find a muddy wallow like this, and well, just put their bum in the air and their head on the ground. I suppose that's the technique, is bum in the air, head on the ground, roll around and get as much mud as you can on you as quick as possible. I'm sure many mothers will sympathize with this as to the kids doing similar things, and I'm sure many pet owners that have dogs that have watched dogs do very similar things too. How cool is that? Is the little one also going to come back for more? Seems like it. Might be a situation where one leg in the air. Now we're even freestyling it. Right, we're going to hold a speaking because we're going to do a little short action broadcast to show everybody the cuteness. Well, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to this very, very interesting behavior from 2 elephants. So it's an incredible way to spend an afternoon. We're sitting with these Ellies and they've just come down to this little muddy wallow and they're having the best time. Now it's 2 siblings that are going crazy, and so hopefully they're going to roll around and continue to entertain us a little bit further. Now this is a live interactive broadcast, which means that you can get hold of us and you can ask any questions that you may have. You can just post your questions in the comment section below and we'll try and answer as many as possible. My name is Tristan. On camera I've got Senzo, and these Ellies, like I say, have just come down to this little mud wallow. So mom came first, and now we've got a situation where the young ones have come in and they're trying to dig up as much mud as possible. And while it looks like a lot of fun and that they're playing and they're having the best time, it's actually there for a purpose. These Ellies are basically trying to cover themselves with mud in order to just make themselves cool. But it's a muggy afternoon. We've had a lot of rain last night and it's quite sort of hot in the summer months, and so it's humid, and that means that the Ellies like to get a bit of cool mud just to help that cooling process. And the other thing is then to just try and look after their skin. So this is acting almost like an exfoliant for their skin. Christine, you say these elephants are cracking you up. They are very funny, aren't they? They're super cute, and it's amazing to watch Ellies when they find mud. They go into absolute kid mode where it's just roll around, carry on head first, mud everywhere, and they become these very playful, interactive animals. It's really amazing actually to watch how their demeanor changes. And the best thing is when you find a big herd and a big wallow, because then you find the whole herd behaves like this, not even the little ones. You'll find mothers come in and even the aunts, and everybody kind of rolls around and goes absolutely crazy together. Now I don't think they're going to be here for too much longer because mom has wandered off quite far and the young ones often don't like to be left behind, so I think this one is maybe going to try and stand up. It's going to take a bit of effort because the way that it's lying, it's got its back legs kind of behind it, and it's now going to have to get everything back together. So Peter, you're asking how often do they need to take these types of baths? Well, it depends, Peter. It depends on weather conditions. So the hotter it is, the more often they do it. Like I said, it is there to try and help them cool down. But generally you'll find at least 2 times a day. Sometimes if it's really hot weather, we've seen elephants come and do this maybe 4, 5, 6 times in a day. But generally at least once or twice a day they'll kind of come and do it. Even in cooler conditions, they do it just to protect their skin, keep their skin in good condition, get rid of parasites and any sort of bits of loose dead debris that's on them, any sort of issues that they have that they can go and rub off and just kind of exfoliate, as well as, like I say, just in a cooling process. But you'll see now it's now found water itself, which it's going to throw probably on its chest and its ears to try and make sure that it just cools down even more and makes it as comfortable as possible. Now Paula, you're wondering if they could get stuck. So yes, they can get stuck, but not in places like this. So this mud is far too shallow for them to get stuck. It's a situation where this mud is kind of very, very sort of shallow and there's no real danger in an elephant of that size getting stuck. But when you get big mud wallows, particularly in drought seasons, when a crust forms, then little babies often go in there and they get stuck, and then you'll find the whole herd will come and try and kind of get them out. And it's amazing actually to watch elephants in the way that they'll dig and try and pull everybody out and make sure everybody stays nice and safe. Now unfortunately they are disappearing. They've gone into a very dense, very deep thicket that I don't think we're going to be able to follow them in. I'm just trying to actually see them behind me, but I can't see them anymore. They've disappeared that quickly. So we're going to carry on. We are going to keep going this afternoon, and if there is any more action, we certainly will bring it to all of you. But if you are enjoying this and you do want to watch more of what goes on and see what we get up to over the course of the next 2 and a bit hours, well, then you can get us on wildsafariLive.com or just Google Safari Live and you'll be able to find us. But from myself and Senzo, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we hope that we will see you all again some stage soon. Alright, so now I can speak again. Let's go and have a look quickly if we can see the track, well, now that they've all moved off, because I don't know if we will after that young male lay all over the place there and wallowed and did his thing. But let's try and see. It's amazing how quickly they actually disappeared. They kind of went from being right in front of me to gone in the space of 2 seconds. But it is that dense area around the Mulawati, so I didn't expect them to kind of hang around for too long. Are we going to drop down into that ditch? Are we good there, Sense? Cool. go. So let's see. Now hopefully we're not going to get ourselves stuck here, because obviously there is a few little mud wallows in places. Are we good here? Yes, that's good. We can sneak in. Oh, I don't know if we're going to get any tracks. I think they've destroyed everything, but let's see. Trying to do my best elephant impression and kind of just suck Rusty's sides in a little bit as we sneak through. No, they've destroyed it, unfortunately, so they've covered it all in mud. But what we should have seen there would have been 2 tusk marks. You can actually see kind of where they were. So go down a bit for me, Sense. So there on either side of that little wallow, there's 2 kind of holes that are going down, but they've been covered a little bit, unfortunately, in mud. And so that means that we've got a situation where you can't really see them too clearly, and we can't actually see the wrinkles of the forehead like you can sometimes see in these prints. The best animals to get it with is the big bull elephants, because the size of the hole that they leave is sometimes like this, and then you can get the whole forehead with these massive holes on either side deep into the mud, and you can actually put your hands kind of all the way in. It's very, very cool to see. So I was hoping that she would leave a bit more of an indent than that, but obviously when the other one came and lay on top, then mud gets smeared all over the top of those holes and becomes a little more difficult to see everything. But anyway, it was worth having a little look. You never know. Now the other thing while I'm sitting here that is actually very pretty is on my right hand side here, there is the most amazing patterns on the water here. So there's a bit of blue-green algae that's formed, and with the light it's actually got the most incredible pattern. So if you can zoom into any of these green things here, Sens, it's very, very pretty to see the kind of cracks in the algae. You can go further in. Let's see how close we can actually get and whether or not it comes through. But you see there's little cracks in it and kind of patterns, and the sun coming off it is actually very pretty. So always nice to sometimes stop and see things. You see exactly, Senzo. It's like a map of Djuma, although Djuma doesn't look that green at the moment. So we'll say the map of the Okavango. How about that? That's water and greenery. Right, well, from one pretty beautiful sight in nature, let's send you across to Ellie with another.
Well, we have enjoyed her company very much, but we've decided to move to try and get a little bit of a different view of her and, of course, her beautiful rosettes. Now, the design of every leopard, as we know, or the pattern of the rosettes is unique to every one of them. So I am hoping that if we stare at it enough, it will sort of imprint in my head and I'll be able to remember it. But she's had her head up and down a few times, and the elephant eventually moved away. Didn't even notice that there was a leopard around here, which is incredible because, I mean, they were quite close. She probably didn't even notice, and if she knew while she was half asleep, she did not show us that. I am quite impressed at how big she is. She's actually quite like a bulky leopard. She's interesting. She actually reminds me a little bit of Tiani, and she's got very broad shoulders compared to perhaps some of the other female leopards that we've seen or that I've seen in the recent times. So it's quite interesting. I am hoping we're going to be quite patient and we're going to play the patience game with her until she decides to get up and walk towards that marula. Hopefully she'll do it a little bit later on when the sun is starting to dip and we'll have that beautiful sky to accompany her on that marula, because as we saw earlier on, that scrub here is in a very beautiful open marula, so that's very, very, very promising. So I hope I'm not going to jinx it. I would really like to see her go up there and do that. But for now, she's got the best spot in the house. She's also got like a very thick tail. I'm impressed at how big she is. And her eyes are very light. Almost remind me a bit of Anderson's eyes. Mariko, you're wondering what a rosette is. Well, rosette is the name that we give the spots. Now, if you look at the spots, you see that they almost resemble roses. It's by the pattern that they're arranged. So it's normally a darker spot in the middle and almost a circular pattern around that darker part. So that's why they're called rosettes. It's not a spot because it's not fully black inside. It's not a little circle, but rather a few spots in a round pattern all around the middle. So when we're talking about leopards, then we say that they have rosettes, which would be the proper word to utilize rather than spots. Now, I think, sorry guys, there is somebody that is trying to get into the sighting and to try and show the guest this beautiful leopard. And I think they're a little bit lost because they cannot really see them. So I'm just going to be on the radio for 2 seconds to try and direct them here. Andrew Ferrali. Andrew, is it you and Triple M? Okay, copy. Perfect. I think luckily the roof is making us quite visible. Standing by. Standing by. Alright, seems like that's it for the radio chatter. Because we share this property, or we are in the reserve with many other vehicles, then we try to always be considerate and help each other out. It's a lot of teamwork, because some days we'll get lucky and we'll find what everybody wants to see, but some days somebody else will find what we want to see. So it's always good to share the sightings and to try and explain to people, because sometimes they get into quite tricky spots. Well, now, it's been lovely to actually see you with your head up again. Now, there's her chest, very, very broad. I am impressed at how big she is. Now, I just want to see you walking, because I've just seen you in between branches and leaves today. Nope. You're almost acting like a lion today. Very sleepy. Hello. Beautiful. Her stomach is also looking quite full, and I think maybe she hasn't gone back because she's probably still full from that steenbok that she had. But she had the opportunity to kill that scrub here, and then so she did, and she went for it, and she got lucky. So which means that actually she's done the work for probably the next day or so. So she is quite lucky in that regard. And as it shows, leopards and lions and pretty much all of the predators that we have around here are opportunistic animals. So a lot of the times we just assume that they're going to go for bigger things, or when they're done with a kill that they'll be happy and then they just won't be that interested in hunting. But here we have proof that if the right moment presents itself, then they are definitely going to try and go for that, just so that they don't have to do it later. And we were actually discussing this earlier on. I think they eat a lot more smaller things than what we give them credit for, because I mean that little steenbok and that little scrub here won't last her for that long. Rika, you're wondering if she could be pregnant. Well, she's mated with a hukumuri male as far as I know, so there could be a chance that she is indeed pregnant, but that will only start showing in the next few months. Their gestation period is about three and a half months, and I think she mated probably about, I'm going to say 3 weeks ago or so. So just under a month, if my recollection of time is not wrong. But I think the fat belly that we're looking at today is actually her just being full of meat and full of food, rather than her actually having any little kittens in there. They would still be too small to really pop out like that. But definitely there could be a chance. She's not mating anymore, so normally it would be a good thing. I am very puzzled about where I'm going to send you, but I think James is with Thomas the bird. So let's go and find out who Thomas the bird is.
Well, Ellie, some people might be puzzled as to why you're called Ellie, you know. That is a tawny eagle, everybody, and this is the last time the joke about naming birds will come. Rebecca asked me what bird it was, or what its name was. I said its name was Thomas, and it is in fact a tawny eagle. That's what she wanted to know. Now, I've just noticed to the right of that a tree full of raptors. You see that? There it is. Stuffed. Now the top one, on the very top of the tree, I think, is that all we got? Arch, is that full zoom? I think that's a snake eagle of some sort. The ones further down, I'm not really sure about. It's possible that the one closest to us is also a tawny. And the one behind, well, if the one closest to us is a tawny, well, that's most likely that the one next to it is also a tawny. Oh, there it flies. That's a big bird. Gone down to the ground. Try and grab something, perhaps. Actually, let's stick on the top one there, Arch. I just want to see if it isn't perhaps one of those harriers. Well, child of the universe, this is the question for all of us, isn't it? You say, why are there so many raptors together? Well, normally you'd expect there to be some kind of scavenging going on. It might be one of those... Oof. I mean, for this distance, very difficult to tell. It could be a Eurasian marsh harrier. Oh, yes, with that colour beak. Maybe. So it seems to have a bit of white underneath it, which would indicate quite possibly that it is a Eurasian marsh harrier. I'm just quickly going to look at the snake eaglies. I do apologise for this really fairly poor identification of this bird, but in my defence it is very far away. It could, in theory, be a western-banded snake eagle. Know what it is. I'm just going to tell you I don't know what it is, and I'm pretty sure that the one above it is a tawny. At least below it, sorry. Okay, good. Well, let's have one last look at the beautifully easy to identify tawny eagle, and then we'll press on. Those buildings in the background are the Olololo Gate. Djuma, you want to know if this tree is dead or alive. This one is alive, but the one with all the raptors in it is almost certainly expired. It is dead. Okay, let's carry on. We're heading back towards the gate, I'm afraid. We only have 14 minutes to get there. Will we make it? Who knows? It's all very exciting. Such mysteries. It is the most glorious afternoon out here. David, you'll find, you asked an interesting question. You say, so eagles and raptors don't defend territories from other species. You'll find that most territorial behavior is inter-specific. It's intraspecific. So eagles will definitely, like martial eagles, will defend territories against other martial eagles. They won't defend it against kestrels or vultures or birds like that. Well, sometimes they might have a go at them for competition purposes, but territorially, birds and mammals almost always mark their territories in order to bridge invasion from conspecifics, so from the same species. Lions mark their territories to show other lions that they are there. Leopards the same. And I think you'll find that it's probably exactly the same with most of the birds. It is just too gorgeous. Let's have one last look down. Let's have a landscape shot there, Arch. I mean, that is very special. Just is endless. You can see all the way into Tanzania that way. And remember, come the end of June, the great thundering herds will return to disturb these quiet grasslands with their bang, bang, bang. Marvellous. As you have just joined us, this is our last Mara drive for the next little while. We're doing a whole lot of research and development and training up here in the Mara, so we won't be live from here for the foreseeable future, but we will be back sometime this year, bigger and better and more skilled than we are now. Too gorgeous, too gorgeous. Alrighty, go to a cat that is hiding under a bush, and it is not Ellie, it is the cat that Ellie is with. How cryptic.
It is indeed, James. She's we're hoping that she's actually going to get up soon enough. I mean, it is starting to cool down. She did sort of looked at us, yawn a little bit, and then she went back down. So normally when they start yawning, there's a little bit of hope that get up and do. I think, however, that we're going to still have to stick around here for a while longer before she decides to do anything. I mean, she is probably still very full and she's got the best spot, so I wouldn't move either. And I think she had quite the interesting afternoon, because on the tree where she was actually this morning, or well, where she spent the night, where we saw her yesterday, about maybe 2-3 meters away from that tree, or just south of the tree, is exactly where all of the buffaloes crossed and then the lions crossed. So I think she was probably on of the night just watching all of this commotion and all of these creatures moving around. So maybe that's part of the reason why right now she's recovering from a night where probably she didn't sleep as much as she should have, just out of stress. Because imagine watching a crowd of, I don't know, about 9 lions and 3 male lions walking not too far from where you are, and there you are on a tree just holding on to dear life and onto your kill, just trying to be invisible. Clearly she did a very good job, as she is still with us today. So and she ate all of her kill. New one. It's always a game of wishful thinking when you find a cat that's sleeping and someone's like, come on. We know that we hope that you had a very wonderful sleep. However, we would like to see you go up that marula. That would be pitch perfect, cherry on top. Would absolutely love it, and it would make a lot of us happy. But as it is with nature, everything goes at its own time, and we actually have absolutely no control over what they do, when they do it, or why they do it. We can only hope to sort of understand the reasoning behind it. It's been so interesting watching the leopard dynamics that have been happening in Djuma for the last few months. It really has been, just seeing where Hosanna's been hanging out, and then Tamba, and then Hukumuri coming, and that, I'm sure that's really thrown a spanner in the wheels, as some people would say, just because it seems that everything was quite settled for a very long time, and then all of a sudden when Karula disappeared, then we started seeing Tandi and Shadow a lot more, and then they moved into areas where necessarily see them that much before, but then we got used to seeing them there. And then the Hukumuri male came around, and then of course both of them having their cubs, now they have to retreat and go into other areas where they think this male will not venture, or perhaps will not venture as far, just to try and protect their cubs. But then we've had young male leopards also sneaking around this area, trying to stay out of trouble, because you're probably not as strong as some of the bigger male leopards around here. And then, we've got this beautiful female that we hadn't seen before, or I hadn't seen before. We could as much, also venturing a little bit more into our property. So it's been quite an interesting shift in all the dynamics, and it just proves that as soon as you believe that something is settled and it's going to remain a particular way for a while, then all of a sudden, poof, something will happen and everything starts changing. It's almost like, Game of Thrones in the leopard world. Hopefully not as bloody or as cruel. Queen Xidulu just sleeping now. Now, she's in quite of a tricky spot. I don't know, it's just hard to get to her and try and get a better visual. As you can see, she's very well protected all around her. So she's got a bunch of quarries and a bush willow all around her that are not making it easy for us to have a view. But I feel like if we stay here and we are patient for a little while longer, we'll be rewarded by her probably walking into the sunset and then on top of the marula. At least that's what I'm hoping for, especially after this morning where we drove all of this area just trying to find her, and there she was. Also, I just want to see how big you are compared to other female leopards. It will be quite interesting to put that comparison into my head. Annie, you're wondering if all the leopards that I just mentioned that we were talking about, if they're in the Mara or in Djuma. I'm referring to the leopards in Djuma. I'm currently in Djuma in the Sabi sand, so I have never been to the Mara, so the dynamics of the leopards are in the Mara. In this particular spot of the world, though, because we've had, or the Sabi sand and the lodges have been around for about, I would say, maybe 50, 60 years, leopards have grown very habituated to cars and vehicles, and as long as you respect certain rules, then they are been allowing us to see all these incredible dynamics and just witness them. it's by far one of the most interesting soap operas that I could ever witness. Yeah, many characters coming into play. Even when all of them come in and then old characters exit the scene, new ones come along. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I think this particular area, Djuma and the northern Sabi Sand, I always say that I've never seen anything quite like it. I've never seen so many leopards in a specific area. And I've worked in other parts of the Sabi Sand, but what you see up here is just very, very special. We are lucky to be able to share it with everyone on a daily occasion. Manage to find them, because not every day do we get lucky with the leopards either. I'm hoping all these breeze, perhaps one of the branches is going to annoy her. Child of the universe, you're wondering if she came into this area because she was following Hukumuri. Well, there has been some talk of that happening. She normally doesn't venture into this much, but she was seen with the Hukumuri male roughly around this area. But again, the dynamics are shifting, so I think now that she's gotten to know this area a little bit further, and it's virtually empty from other female leopards occupying this particular spot, because Tundi or Shadow do not venture this far north, then perhaps she's found herself a little spot that has not been claimed, and she might try and stick around here more than what she used to. Would certainly be nice to have another female leopard around, especially if she is pregnant, and would potentially allow us the possibility of seeing her cubs if she does have them in the next few months. Almost like in the next 6 months. Well, maybe not as much, but in the next while. It seems like there's something that's bothering her. At least a fly. Almost looks like a forest. Susie, you're wondering if Hukumuri can smell the scent of another male if they've been scent marking. Yes, for sure. That is part of the reason why males scent mark. Oh, smell weakness in another male. Sorry, I got part of the question wrong. No, I don't think they'll be able to smell the weakness per se if a male is not healthy or anything like that. I do think that what they'll pick up on is on the fact that a specific area hasn't been scent marked in quite a while. So I think maybe that's why Tingana has been a little bit ill as of late. He has best condition, and he hasn't been marking or scent marking or calling as much as he used to. So I think the Hukumuri males actually picked up on the fact that this particular area hasn't been patrolled for a while, so it could indicate that perhaps there isn't a leopard there, so he's going to start claiming it. So I would say that's my guess. He doesn't know that Tingana is weak, but he's picked up on the fact that there's nobody here to come and challenge him. So as long as there's nobody here to really challenge him, then he's going to carry on pushing. I am that in this storm, Tingana has managed to make a kill, though, so that he'll recover and be a little bit fuller than when we last saw him. Almost like you, Xidulu. Would be nice to see Tingana full again like you. Seems like her breathing has calmed down. She's not as hot as what she was before. It's not going as quickly as it used to be. Belly food of steenbok and potentially a little bit of hair. And hair. No, I think it's time for you to start moving. I think it's going to start raining. Still have a while, but we'll still be lucky enough. While we still have a lot of time to spend with this leopard while we wait for her to actually get up, let's head back to James with the last views of the Mara, at least for now.
We don't have too much time left in the Mara, I'm afraid, everybody. Now, a question from Kamora about what is going to happen to the guides up here in the Mara. Well, we're all going to be part of this research and development program that's going on here. We've got David, who's in training, as you know. We've got Jamie coming up to do various bits and pieces after her leave. And remember, we are also going to be expanding, hopefully, into one, maybe two different locations, but we'll keep you posted So all of the guides currently involved at Safari Live will remain involved at Safari Live, either at Djuma or here as part of our sort of research and development process. And the same goes for all of the staff. They will be transferring between here and there and perhaps a new location. So all of us, those familiar faces, will be in and out of your screens regardless of whether we're live here or not. Okay. Let's have one last look at the magnificence that is the Maasai Mara. I'm most pleased to... I won't be leaving. I'm not going anywhere. Ha 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 ha. I'll be here for the next little while. Isn't that marvellous? And remember that this is not a permanent thing by any stretch of the imagination. It's just so that we can take care of various things that need taken care of. And we'll come back bigger and better than before. And as Rebecca says, marvellous. On that note, we are going to sign off from the Maasai Mara. I suppose we should call it season, if you like, and we'll hand you back to Ellie and her leopard. I will see you on a screen sometime soon. I'm not sure from where, but hopefully it will be exciting, definitely, and hopefully you'll be able to cope without me. Until then, goodbye.